difficult for me because prior to that, I had no way of understanding these concepts. Partly because nobody talks about it. These aren't conversations that you're having with your grandparents over Christmas, like lunch. It's not the kind of conversation you're having. And suddenly, I had this vocabulary that I was able to articulate the way that I felt and why I felt the way that I felt. And so going forward, I did a lot of research, like a lot. And it was, to a degree, it was very, very scary. For transgender people, generally speaking, the level of discrimination and violence that they experience is utterly terrifying. Scared to the point of, am I going to then do something about this, or am I going to continue to live as a boy for the rest of my life? For me, that's still something that I think about every single morning when I wake up, when I get dressed. While I'm in the shower, I'm thinking about, what am I going to wear today? If I wear that, is that going to provoke anybody? Entire other consideration that I'm having to implement every single moment of every single day in my life. And it's stressful, but you cope and you know. In April last year, I had made a decision that I am going to transition. I sent out a whole bunch of emails to a whole bunch of doctors to get information. And pretty much the response that I got was either A, they refused to help me because they weren't comfortable dealing with transgender issues, or two, that they were willing, but it was going to cost me an extraordinary amount of money that I didn't have. And so I very quickly realized that because I didn't have any medical aid, that I would have to go through the state. But fortunately for me, I live in Cape Town, so Groot Schuur Hospital has a transgender unit, a team who facilitates that process. So I was very fortunate to be living in the city where that service is being provided. And between going to the doctor in about mid-April and me getting my appointment in Groot Schuur, that may have taken about 3 or 4 months. And it was an incredibly stressful time. Because now it's 3 or 4 months of waiting and of angst and just like I want to do something about the way that I feel, and I feel that seeing a medical professional is going to help me, but suddenly I'm now without aid for this extended period. But in retrospect, that period gave me some time to think about how I was going to tell people about how I felt, about explaining to them my gender and what I planned to do and what they could expect. I eventually came out to my partner back in January. I have a very open relationship with her. I pretty much told her, and she was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, that's nice. This person's not judging me, that's awesome. But I felt that she wouldn't judge me, and so I felt comfortable enough to tell her. The very, very first thing I did was I was playing around with the idea of changing my name to see how that would feel. And so I went through a bunch of names, and something didn't fit, this didn't feel nice. And so I settled on Zoey, and I thought, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this name as my user on my computer. So I'm the only person who would see it. That was great. It was on my computer for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then I had my brother and a friend of mine over at our place. And we had something to drink, and it was really chill. My brother asked for my computer because he wanted to change the music on the iTunes. He opens my computer and he says to me, "Who's Zoey?" I was blindsided, and I was like, so I have like something to tell you. and I told him, and because my brother's my brother, my friend's my friend, they're incredibly open and incredibly accepting. And so I felt comfortable enough to tell them, and I felt like the space was safe. And so it was fine. I didn't want to change my pronouns, didn't want to change anything about who I was, or at least those particulars about myself. And so I didn't even ask to be called by my name for that period of time. I just went by my old name and didn't want anybody to treat me any differently. But then as time went on, it just felt like certain things needed to change at certain points for me. And so I had then told my larger group of friends, who were also very, very accepting, I think my parents were the last people I told. My mother is my mother, and she loves me with all her heart, and she was just like, you know, Zoe, I love you, and if you want to do this, that's cool. Like, and I was like, that's fantastic. I told my dad, he took it a bit rough. He struggled to really wrap his head around it. It took him like a couple of months. He wasn't against anything. It was just a concept that he had to kind of just understand. And eventually he came around, and he was. And now I have this incredibly supportive group of people in my life who are just supportive of my transition, supportive of my gender identity, and they affirm who I am. And I recognize that I am profoundly privileged in that way. I know for a lot of people that they don't have that. They don't have support structure. They don't have people who are there for them when they need. They don't have people to talk to about certain things. And for me, I honestly don't know where I'd be or how I'd cope if I didn't have that support structure. I do recognize that I'm very, very lucky that I have that. The fact that I'm able to sit here and have a conversation is testament to the support that I have from my friends and family.